It's great to see the effort that people who care about our children and care about the quality of our education system coming to Canberra with thousands of submissions to explain to the Abbott government why they shouldn't cut education, why our children and our hardworking teachers and the parents deserve the certainty of 6 years of funding, not 4. But in particular, the importance of what the people who are here today supporting better funding for our children, better outcomes for our kids, is that in Western Australia there's a Senate by-election coming up. Because Tony Abbott would not support 6 years of funding, and because the 4 years of funding that he provided the West Australian state government had no strings attached, Tony Abbott and Christopher Pyne gave the green light to the Barnett government to take state money out of the education system in Western Australia. Or to put it in human terms, the Barnett government has cut $183 million from education. 360 teachers, gone. 350 teachers' aides and support staff, gone. And what will happen is that Tony Abbott has said that he wants to model his government on the Barnett government. We didn't ask Tony Abbott to make Colin Barnett an issue in this election. Tony Abbott's made him an issue in this election. We didn't ask Tony Abbott to explain to people that he regards Colin Barnett as his role model and that Colin Barnett runs a very good government, when in fact he doesn't. And we certainly didn't ask Tony Abbott and Colin Barnett to cut hundreds of jobs out of the Western Australian school system, to take money away from children who do require resources to make sure that they get the best start in life. So very clearly, education cuts are a big issue in the Western Australian election, and indeed Western Australian school parents, in light of these harsh education cuts and job losses, want to see the Commission of Audit report, the secret report that the Abbott government's had from about the 5th of February. It doesn't take 50 or 60 days to read a report. The Abbott government should at least respect Western Australian voters enough to tell them what are the nasty surprises and the cuts that they intend to make to Western Australian quality of life, to the middle class of Western Australia. I might ask my shadow colleague Kate Ellis to say a few words.
Well, thank you, Bill. It is fantastic to get a chance to speak to some of the Gonski bus drivers who have been out there driving across the country, speaking to tens of thousands of Australian parents who have been betrayed by the Abbott government. Now, at the last election, teachers, parents, students were all told that there was a unity ticket when it came to school reform. They were told that you could vote Liberal or you could vote Labor and you would get the same amount of funding for your school. But of course we know that that was nothing but a cruel betrayal. In just 8 weeks' time, on Federal Budget Day, we will see the full extent of that lie that was told. Because if they are to meet that commitment, and there is no difference in the amount of school funding, we will see the beginning of the funding for years 5th and 6th of the Gonski Agreement. We will see the beginning of an extra $7 billion in federal funding flowing to our schools. But of course we know that this is a government that wants to shirk its responsibility. Tony Abbott and Christopher Pyne would have you believe that they have nothing to do with the Western Australian school cuts, but that is simply not true. Under the reforms that they agreed to, that they promised the Australian public, they would stop state governments cutting their school budgets as a condition of receiving federal funding. But they've shown that they're not willing to stand up to their mates in the West, which is why we need a strong parliament who will make sure that federal dollars only flow if state governments stop cutting school funding budgets and start making co-contributions.